This time of year, many of us are traveling, thinking about traveling, wishing we were traveling. So today on Austin Faith Dialogue, our topic is responsible tourism. Stay with us for today's show.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
We're glad you're here today on Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Sandy Wilder, your host. And again, today we're talking about responsible tourism, how we as people of faith can be good representatives of our country, our faith, and ourselves as we travel to new places. And we have two professional travel agents with us today. Thank you both for coming. Pam LaCroix from Royal Cruises and Tours and Dolly Golden from Golden World Travel. Good to have both of you. Let me not assume, though, that everybody would necessarily know what we mean by the term responsible tourism. So perhaps each of you could say a little bit about how you understand that term, and I'll start with you, Pam.
Well, responsible tourism, I think, means that maybe you do a little bit of homework before you travel somewhere. You get an idea of what people's customs are, and maybe religious customs in particular. You don't want to do anything to offend people. Possibly the way we dress in America is sometimes offensive to other cultures. We're very casual. We tend to wear a lot of T-shirts that have slogans and sayings on them that might be looked upon, pretty unfavorably in other countries. So we need to be aware of that. We also need to be aware of gestures and things like that. Not taking things out of the country that shouldn't be taken. It can be anything from, finding an artifact in the desert or something like that to taking shells or sea life out of the ocean. Things like that. If everybody picks up something and takes it away from a place, that place no longer has what everybody is going there to see. So something along those lines, I think.
Thinking through a lot of stuff. Okay. And Dolly, for you, the term responsible tourism means what?
To know before you go, like rules and regulations of the different countries that you're going to visit, and again, the clothing and such, and usually you'll meet with the groups that you're going to be traveling with and talk about these things, so they're not going to have to go out and find the information on their own, but to talk about the dress for the churches or different sites that you'll be visiting, and know the people you're going to be working with the other end, because they inform the travelers. Like tomorrow we're going to visit religious sites, so the men should wear long pants and the ladies cover their shoulders and such. So there's some important things, and as far as their passports and visas and all those kind of things that we should know about.
Do the two of you find in your work with different individuals and groups that people who come specifically from a faith group or with a church group or whatever tend to be more prepared, more responsible, or would that be an overstatement?
I don't know. I think they might have a little more thought put into it before they travel. I have had some people go to even just a resort destination where, you are expected to dress casually and everything, but still when you go out to dinner, you are expected to have some sort of dress code. In Austin, we're a very, very casual city here, and you can find people when you go out to a nice restaurant here dressed a variety of ways. Some people are dressed up, but other people can be in jeans and a ball cap sitting at a dinner table. That would be very uncouth in most places. Even in Mexico, I've had people not allowed into restaurants because they showed up in like cutoffs and a bikini top. You have to think about, you're in a foreign country and their culture, you should respect their culture. And if people are dressed up to go to dinner, you should follow their guidelines and not be insulted or angry that they wouldn't let you in because you looked inappropriate.
Okay. And Dolly, you've actually worked, I think, with some faith-based groups. How has their approach been compared to others?
It's been really good, and we do meet like before we go and talk about the things that we want to do and what they need to know about the places we're going to visit and places that they would like to go that maybe we didn't have planned. So But it's a pretty informed group before you leave here, and I think that's very important.
Now, would a traveler find then that to travel in a responsible way is going to cost them more money or more whatever, that it's going to be more aggravation?
Not really. I think most everywhere we go, we don't want to reflect, the ugly American picture. And if they say, we were treated so badly, sometimes they ask for the troubles that they find. And I don't think going to these places necessarily costs more. I mean, maybe they're a little remote, like Antarctica and the Galapagos, and where your environmental and ecotourism is stressed more than other places that, getting to the place costs a little more. But actually being there doesn't cost more. I mean, you're contributing to the upkeep of the parks and such, so there are some fees that you would pay that you wouldn't normally pay just going on to a resort place. But
Thanks. Pam, I understand that your consciousness of traveling responsibly started pretty young when you were on a trip with your parents. What happened on that trip?
Right. Well, I was 16 years old, and we went to Rome, and I was dressed like a typical 16-year-old American girl. I had on white jeans and tennis shoes, and my mom, of course, being a typical American housewife, she was dressed in a dress. But in Rome, you didn't see any women in pants at all. So when I stepped out onto the Via Veneto, I got a lot of stares and a lot of remarks made to me. They looked at me like I was from another planet. So, not knowing the culture before I went, that was, it was embarrassing. And I mean, I remember it to this day of how everybody looked at me like I was a moron. So checking out those things before you go is helpful. And then I had another thing happen where I had sent some clients to Playa Car, which is about an hour and a half south of Cancun. And I failed to mention to them that that's a very European-oriented beach destination. So there's a lot of things that are topless or clothing optional. And so they were quite surprised when they went down there and saw that. And the gentleman called me back to tell me that he wished he had known, and I said, well, I apologize. It just didn't enter my mind. I forgot about it because it just happens all the time there, and I guess after a while I just forgot that it was even there. And he said, oh, well, it's okay. I didn't mind.
Sounds like an understatement.
He said, in fact, I'd like to go back. And he said, I just thought that it might be something you'd want to tell people. And I said, you're right. And so I have. Every time now that I've sold that destination, that reminds me, just his phone call reminds me that I need to tell people, because there are people that would be offended by that and would not want to go there, would not want to take their children. But, Europeans frequent the place. Their kids are there. They're naked in front of their kids, and it's not a problem.
So a tip for travelers is ask questions.
Yes.
If you're working with a professional travel agent, ask those questions, right?
Right.
Do you have some similar kinds of stories, Dolly?
it's kind of another Rome experience. I guess we were on like a Flying Longhorn trip or whatever it was at the time, and so we were going out to eat in Rome, and everybody was kind of coming into the dining room and started making our wonderful hook 'em horn sign. And one of the waiters just went into a rage. He was, and came flying at the gentleman who did it. And we all immediately started saying, he wasn't doing something wrong. At least we didn't think he was. But in Italy, that gesture meant something totally different. And so we have to learn and kind of respect those and do a little checking before you go. So, because different gestures mean different things in different countries. So
Exactly.
we have to be very careful.
How does a travel agent find out about these kinds of things? I don't imagine you all have all that much time to sit around and read.
Experience is our best teacher. And we were talking about that
travel quite a bit.
a lot.
And check things out for ourselves so that we can tell people. And another thing we do, we have the opportunity to go to a lot of different seminars and things to learn about travel. There are different vendors that put on seminars that we can go to, and we can find out about their products, and we know if they're reputable, and then they can tell us about the destination and what to expect there, what people should wear, what there is to see and do there. Kind of an approximate cost of per day would cost one of your clients, and And oftentimes they offer us a trip down there to see the place and to experience it and to check out the hotels and go to some of the sightseeing destinations so that we can recommend those places to our clients. So that we're constantly learning stuff, and there's just tons of seminars always going on. There's a lot of seminars that come to town, and there's other ones that we actually travel to.
So although folks might say, well, I can get everything I need off the internet, I can do the research myself, you could still make a good argument for using the services of a professional then, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we recommend they use the internet for information purposes and find everything they're interested in, but to really go to your professional travel agent and verify that and make sure you're dealing with a company that is reliable, because there are too many unknowns right now that need proving as far as the people you're dealing with who may not know anything about the destination.
And maybe there's a list of a few questions that a client could ask of you, and what would some of those be so that they could find out some of these details?
Oh, how long have you been in business? Do you belong to the Better Business Bureau? Are you a member of a professional organization? The local, well, for instance, the local area here, we have an association called the Travel Agents Council of Austin, also known as TACA. And that's several agencies have banded together, and we try to promote the travel industry in Austin and what we can do for you as agents versus you trying to go out and plan your own vacations. So we've got a travel and answer question in the newspaper currently, and we have people writing into us and asking us travel questions, and one of us at the meeting will take and answer it, and you'll see it in the column a couple of weeks later in the paper. So that's been working out pretty well.
That's where that comes from.
It does.
Because my sense is that people want to spend their time and their resources wisely as they travel, to have a good experience and to not do anything offensive, right?
Right.
Well, we'll come back in a minute after a break, but when we come back, I want us to talk a little bit about ecotourism and soft adventure travel and some of those other specialized ways of getting to see the world and encouraging us to be a little bit more responsible in our travel. So we'll come back and thank you both for questions and answers this first half. Thank you for being with us. Stay with us for the second half of Austin Faith Dialogue. We're glad you're with us for the second half of Austin Faith Dialogue when we're talking about responsible tourism. And our guests today are two professional travel agents. What a pleasure to have you both. Pam LaCroix from Royal Cruises and Tours and Dolly Golden from Golden World Travel. Now, in the first part, we kind of set the stage for travel do's and don'ts and some parameters for responsible travel. But there are some specialized kinds of travel that people are looking for now, ecotourism, soft adventure travel, and I wonder if we might talk a little bit about that, using as a springboard your experiences in the Galapagos Islands.
The Galapagos Islands are an extremely rare, pristine place, and the government there is really trying to preserve that. So their efforts are, they're allowing people in to see all the animals and experience nature, but they limit how many ships can go in there, the number of people that can be on the land at any given time, how long they can stay there. You're not allowed to pick up anything and take it back with you, not a rock, a leaf, nothing. They want to, keep it maintained as well as they can. So that's a real extreme area where the government has got a lot of rules and regulations, and you pay a fee to go in to the Galapagos Islands and view the animals and everything, and they use those fees to keep everything up and keep everything enforced. Another place that's very ecotourism minded is Costa Rica, and it's a beautiful place, lots of wild birds, flowers. They've got some biological preserves down there that you can actually go stay. And they don't have phones, and they don't have electricity, and they take the soft adventure trips where you go out and look at the birds and the flora and fauna, and you can do whitewater rafting and really get back to nature experience. And you can walk through the trees. What's that called? Where they hoist you up in the trees, and you literally like swing from tree to tree on these platforms, and it's real neat. It's like a Tarzan and Jane experience, right. But it's very, very popular, and that's a real neat thing to do. So,
and you use the term soft adventure as opposed to something that's a little bit more life-threatening.
Well, yeah, exactly. A little
climbing Mount Everest.
Like climbing, yes, exactly. Like climbing Mount Everest. Maybe going on a trek to Nepal. It's a little more grueling. You've got to be in really good physical condition, and trekking to Nepal is a very, very big thing these days, and lots of people are doing it. It's very popular. And it's a great experience, but it does require, to be in good physical shape because you're walking for days. So that's a little more grueling thing. And they also have level 5 whitewater rafting, which is pretty strenuous and scary, and rappelling off of rocks, and just mountain climbing, hiking, biking.
You all can do almost anything for us.
Yes.
And what have your ecotourism adventures been, Dolly? Either you personally or for some of your clients?
Well, I personally visited Antarctica, and that was kind of a lifetime dream. And it too, they handle it about the same. They're limited, number of ships that can go down there, and I think a few more are going now than have ever gone. Mm-hmm. And they take the rubber rafts, or what they call zodiacs, to actually go on the land so that they don't break anything, like if a real, big ship actually tried to pull in. And, all the animals are there, and again, you can walk and you can see and you can look and take pictures, but you can't touch or pick up anything. And I remember everybody got so excited one day, they were pointing at something on the ground, and we went over to see what it was, and it was a teeny tiny little flower in just a spot of grass. And, this was a big thing, and I thought, how we take all this so for granted here, and how really valuable, and that we should really appreciate it even more.
It's a good experience to take away from travel.
It was really wonderful.
And you've had some experiences, I understand, in the Holy Land, too. Maybe you can say a little bit about those?
Oh, yeah. They've been wonderful experiences in that, no matter what religion you are, when you go there, you get a feeling that I've never had anywhere else in the world. And I've been there with secular groups and then mixed groups. And my first group was a mixed group. And, there were several different religions involved. And it was like walking through from the Old Testament into the New with an understanding I had never gotten, through all my Sunday school days, that because I knew a lot about my own, but I didn't know about others. And one of the gentlemen in our group, was an Episcopalian minister. And we were standing on the mount, and he was reading from the Bible, and everybody was moved. By, no matter what they were. And it was just beautiful. And it was kind of like that all the way through that trip, that we'd all experience, whether it be Christian, Jewish, whatever the faith, Catholic. You just learn things that you just didn't realize you didn't know the same way. And I brought back, we were drinking water out of the plastic bottles, and of course not throwing them just everywhere either, but dipped down into the Jordan River, and I brought back some, for somebody who was ill here, and she said, oh, be sure and, bring some back. Well, I'm sure she was thinking of a souvenir bottle, but at the time it wasn't handy, but the water bottle was. So we all dipped and got, some of the water from the Jordan River. And it was very meaningful, for somebody who couldn't go there to bring that back. It kind of gave me a wonderful feeling having done it. So, there are just some really great experiences all over the world. And
would you either of you say that people or groups that identify themselves specifically as faith-based are asking for one kind of travel or one kind of destination over another? Are there those kind of generalizations?
Oh, I think so to some extent. I'm sure that I've talked to many people who've been to the Holy Land, and unfortunately I have not. But any person who's ever been there, even travel agents who've gone all over the world, it is the one destination that every single person has told me the same thing. Just had this overwhelming emotional impact on them being there. And they've been in various faiths, like she said, just an overwhelming experience for them to go to the Holy Land. That's one of the destinations that always comes to mind for people of faith. That's like that and the Passion Play in Oberammergau. That's very popular also. So yeah, I do think that they are looking for something. They're looking for an extra, an enriched experience, not just a tourism thing, not a sightseeing, shopping, fun type thing, but more of enlightening, educational, emotional experience.
And they're starting to incorporate that on cruises as well, not just on land tours.
In
but,
what sense?
Well, lots of the churches, the choir groups are getting together and going, and of course during the day they can use the theater for a seminar or a program they want to do, and then take tours when they go off of the ship, say for a day, to a specific area that they may have this wonderful presentation and work with another church, of their faith there. So there are a lot of ways of bringing these people together wherever they want to be.
Yeah, and there are choral groups that go throughout Europe and have like several different choral groups from different countries will all meet in one place, and they'll have just a get-together, a seminar, and they'll all sing and just meet each other. And they're from different faiths from all over the world, and they all get together in Europe. It's really neat.
As travel agents, do either of you do anything different for a faith-based group or faith-based individuals when they come wanting travel services?
Well, I kind of tend to research things for people so that they know what to expect and what's special about the place they're going to, so that they can participate in that activity or go see that or whatever is the most important thing to do there. But probably for religious-based people, again, I would research what religious significance that destination had for them, and tell them, be sure and don't miss this, or don't miss that. If you're going there for this reason, you need to be sure and go see this. And so.
And I've set up like going to visit a church of the same faith for a service there or something that was going on, and go to some seminar program that group was putting on.
Sounds like you both get a great deal of satisfaction with working with those kinds of individuals and people. And before we end, I want to be sure to get to the resources that you brought. Pam, you brought a couple of books. Maybe you have a little bit to share out of some of them?
Well, this is a couple of books I picked up at one of the seminars that I go to. One is called Gestures, The Do's and Taboos of Body Language Around the World. And that's kind of interesting there. Can you see that? And then the other one is Do's and Taboos of Preparing for Your Trip Abroad. And it goes into a little more detail about what to take and questions to ask and that sort of thing. And they're both written in a humorous tone, as you can tell from the covers. They're funny. But they're interesting reading.
Would you recommend those to a client, that he or she
sure.
sit down with that? And
Sure.
now, not to paralyze someone into not traveling, correct?
No, because it's written a bit tongue-in-cheek, so it's just little things to be aware of, things that you say, gestures that you make that might get you in trouble in foreign countries.
Are you finding that in other countries, folks are having a greater sense of caring for the environment, that the travel industry can be perhaps destructive to the environment, and so that tourists are being asked to behave in different ways, perhaps?
I think a good lesson of that was when the gum wrapper in Singapore was dropped. You know, that's one of the cleanest cities I've ever seen anywhere in the world, and everybody really thinks that way, and they keep encouraging any visitors. And that's, as a matter of fact, when your cab driver or bus driver, as it may be, picks the group up at the airport and tells them this on the way to the hotel or wherever they're going, you know, that we are a clean city and we encourage, you know, you're going to be a happy visitor if you abide by this, and it's just going to be happier for everybody.
Was there some story behind the dropped gum wrapper?
Oh, there was a young man, I think, who dropped some gum wrapper on the street there, and it became a real legal thing, and he was in jail,
International
and
incident, yeah.
international. I mean, they were actually, you know,
in
allegedly
jail. They were
he
gonna
was in
cane
jail, and they
him.
were caning him, and I mean, it was just a horrible thing. But they are very serious,
They're very strict.
very
there.
strict
Very
there.
strict.
And I think as long as people are made aware of these things before they go, I mean, you can have a wonderful time anywhere in the world as long as you go informed. And I would say go and enjoy, because
And
life
ask
is
your
too short,
questions.
and
Right.
that world is big and beautiful out there.
Right.
So
And do you, I suppose you have some similar stories then, Pam, about how to be responsible environmentally as you're traveling?
Well, yeah, I mean, environmentally, you have to realize that, you know, you need to clean up after yourself. You don't leave things laying around. Gosh, I don't know. I'm
oh,
drawing
one
a
thing,
blank.
we just got off of a cruise to Alaska, and I was amazed, because I hadn't noticed this on any other ship or anywhere we'd been, that they had separate waste baskets, even in your bath, you know, for recyclable things.
Oh, that's great.
And that was the first time I'd seen that. Of course, it was a very interesting tour, the whole thing, that I didn't know that we had here. That I feel like has come from outer countries.
And I'm sure folks
That
are
we're
glad
learning.
to hear that.
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing too that cruise lines have actually started to do is, you know, they were having a big problem with dumping raw sewage at sea, and some of them were coming in too close to the islands and dumping, and a lot of them were fined, and now they've had to rethink how they're going to dispose of their waste. I mean, you know, there's more and more cruise ships cruising the Caribbean, and they're carrying anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 passengers. That's a lot of trash. So they're having to rethink everything. I mean, Grand Cayman Islands wouldn't let them dock for a couple of months until they cleaned up their act.
So there's just so much more we could talk about.
Oh,
but,
there is. I
But
can
it's
think of stories
basically
as we
ask
go.
questions, work with your professional, do your homework, be prepared, and enjoy.
Have a
right?
wonderful time.
And have a great time.
And thank you both so much for helping us get excited about traveling responsibly. And thank all of you for joining us on Austin Faith Dialogue. We'll see you here again next week.